Hi there folks, welcome to this week's weekly Forex Forecast, Monday the 15th of November. Gosh, Christmas will soon be upon us. Now in order to access this weekly forecast, head over to the forexsignals.com website. You see my pretty face there. Scroll right the way down to the bottom where you see all our free trading tools and so forth. You've got your pivot point calculators and heat maps and so forth. Here you'll see Forex Forecast. Click on that and that will bring this week's forecast. Now if you want to get this sent directly to your inbox, just fill in the fields there and that way you'll get sent the report the moment it has been uploaded. So last week, big week for the US dollar. We hit something like 16-month highs, pretty much fueled by what was a big read in the consumer price index. It's the CPI. It basically is inflation. Now, inflation is running at 6.2% in the US. Now, you know, the central banks around the world, they've got mandates to follow. And one of the mandates that they follow is to maintain price stability. Basically, inflation at around 2%. The higher inflation goes, the more inclined the central banks are to raise interest rates. And if interest rates rise, then basically the currencies should follow as well. And that's basically what's happening at the moment. The US yields, the interest rates you're getting on government bonds, is rising pretty dramatically. And that is basically dragging up the US dollar with it. And of course, with the CPI data running at such a high level, gives case to the story that the Fed may have to start moving rates sooner rather than later. Some are now also penciling in a rate rise into June, July of next year. I certainly think Goldman Sachs are as well. So basically last week's currency markets were dominated by the strength of the US dollar. And the Japanese yen has also been trading quite strong. I'll show you that on the Momento Meter in a moment. Japanese yen, normally it's a risk-off currency. So when the markets are trading with risk on in mind, as they are at the moment, stock markets are driving higher, you normally expect to see a yen weakening, but that's not basically been the case for a while. Japanese yen has been strong as well. So let's have a quick look at what we are all looking at this week. So off out of the gate, Max, third week on the bounce now. He's looking at a natural gas play. He's remaining his bullish momentum for that. He's got a key level of 52 in there. And he's thinking now that we're moving back into a retracement zone, a pullback zone for re-entries. He's also got a trade going in the NASDAQ 100. That's basically the tech stocks driving higher as well. So he's bullish on risk. He's expecting this support zone you see down here to be support and now for prices to take a move to the next channel resistance above there as well. He's looking at 16,440. So I'm going on with the theme of the euro dollar short. So basically on the back of what you saw last week, the really strong US dollar. Also the euro is trading weak, not just weak against the US dollar, but weak across the basket of other currencies. And Lagarde, who's the chair of or the president, I should say, of the European Central Bank, basically she's pretty dovish. That basically means she's pretty keen to let the market know that she ain't moving rates anytime soon. In fact, it was out on the wires earlier, just about an hour ago, that she doesn't see any conditions in 2022 that could lead to a rate hike. So basically she's one of the central bank doves, I think, out there, if you look at all the basket. So trading the euro lower, good trade. Trading the dollar higher, mostly is a good trade. Trading the two together is even maybe a better trade. You see we've broken through key levels of support, maybe back up, retest, bias, trend continuation to the downside. Then I'm looking at the Aussie yen lower, yen continuing to be strong, one of the big currencies at the moment. This currency pair, although the Australian dollar is actually reasonably strong this morning, we're coming into quite a good structural level. Okay, so we're definitely in a downtrend. We're pulling back to what is a 50% retracement, meeting resistance, old support, and we think, I think the trend continuation is for a retest of those lows back down there at around the 83 level. And Mark has kindly put together here a whole bunch of technical analysis covering the main 8 currencies as well. I'm not going to go into all of these now. If you want to get this, if you want to see exactly what he's talking about, just sign up and get the report sent directly to your inbox. Okay, let's jump onto the screens now and look at a chart and the economic calendar for the week ahead. Come on. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the Momento Meter. As you know, this is the tool that I use to give me the edge in the markets. It basically tells me which currencies are strong, which currencies are being bought, and which currencies are weak and therefore being sold. And I like to follow trends, so I like to buy the strong currencies and sell the weak currencies. You'll see here the talk of the town basically is this green line, aptly coloured green for the greenback. That's the US dollar. This is the daily chart. You see the US dollar has been on a surge higher over the last few weeks. In fact, since about the 26th of October, dollar has been on an uptrend. And of course, with the CPI data out last week, big surge higher. Bit lower this morning, just coming into a little bit of weakness in the dollar, but the dollar is still one of the stronger currencies up there. It's up there with the Japanese yen. The Japanese yen is still a very strong currency. It's been basically on a rampage high since about the middle of October. This brown line up here, you can see the big flows in there. This is the daily chart. I like to use the 4-hour chart, so just dropping down a time frame to tell me what's happening now in this time period. And I can see here that the currency that I really should be looking at for the trend continuation would be the Australian dollar, which is this orange line. So although it's nothing spectacular, it is showing some strength gathering in there at the moment. So buying the Australian dollar, and we're looking at this brown line here. Again, it's the Japanese yen. That is becoming weaker. It's one of the reasons why I'm looking at an Aussie yen weakness this week. Also worth noting down here, the weakest currency in the basket is the euro. The euro is at the bottom of the pile. It's the weakest currency at the moment. So as trend followers, buying anything above here and selling anything that's below and heading that way, so pointing down, is for me an edge. And you can see here subtly in there is the New Zealand dollar. New Zealand dollar against the euro may be a trade to the downside. Also looking here at the pound. Pound is kicking off the week in negative territory as well. So maybe buying these New Zealand and buying the Aussie against the pound and the euro would be an edge that you might wish to exploit. And of course, you can drop this down into the lower time frames, and you can see here I've got 2 Momento Meters on. So the top one, I've got the 4-hour chart telling me the overall bias, and the lower time frame chart, the 15-minute chart, showing you what's happening in the much shorter time periods. A lot of traders will use something like this to help time their scalp trades on those lower time period charts. So if you see the Aussie started kicking up and the euro kicking down, maybe it's time to sell the euro against the Oz, bearing in mind that on the higher time frame they are the weakest and the strongest. So keeping an eye on the lower time frames in conjunction with the higher time frames is a really cool way to get the edge in the market. Okay, so let's have a quick look here at the euro dollar. You see here on the screen I've got 3 different time frames. Always like to use the higher time frame to get my bias and for key levels of support and resistance. So to the far right here, I've got the daily chart. And you can see here we have broken through what I consider to be structural support. It was respected back there end of last year. A couple of times bounced off it here. We've been sort of respecting it here as a support zone. We broke through last week on those strong CPI numbers, and you see this big momentum candle, and move back into this old level of support. Should act as resistance. For me, would be my bias for the trend continuation lower. And the next level really that I think the market is going to look at for potential test would be the 113 handle down here. So anything in this zone in here, any pullbacks within this zone in here, for me, I think are selling opportunities. And of course, stops would be, well, where you don't want to get, where you don't think you're going to get hit, and that would be the other side of that resistance zone. So I'm expecting this zone up here to hold, should indeed the dollar fall off a little bit. As it is at the moment, it's coming back, as you saw on the Momento Meter, kicking the week off in a little bit of negative territory. So you may see a bit of a pullback in here, but I expect it to be contained within this area. So that's one of the biases that I'm looking at this week. Let's have a quick look at the economic calendar to see what's ahead this week. So if you head over to the forexsignals.com website, scroll right down to the bottom, here you'll see all our free tools and so forth, pivot point calculators, profit calculators. You've got the currency heat map there as well. That's a really cool tool. Then you've got the Forex economic calendar. Click on that and pulls up the calendar for the week ahead. And I always like to scan out on a Monday ahead of the week to look at any key events that could move the market. So I always go to the next 7 days. You can see it up here at the top right. You just scroll down looking for any high impact news events. Sometimes the grading here is not maybe accurate, I don't know, but I always like to see even the low and medium impact news events. Anything in red is deemed to be high impact news. You've got Lagarde speaking out later today, and that's normally quite interesting to see her outlook. We know already that she's pretty much not for tapering. One of the most dovish of central banks, I think, out there at the moment. So obviously always following on what she's saying. You've got ECB, another speaker there as well later on in the day. Let's again just scroll back out. We've got Tuesday. We've got the RBA minutes. That's the minutes from their meeting, central bank meeting. And Governor Lowe is speaking as well. Give us clues on what they're thinking. We've got average earnings coming out of the UK tomorrow as well. So keep an eye on that. Inflationary number. Obviously, high numbers is inflation. We know inflation's running ahead there. We've got employment numbers out of Eurozone. So we'll always be looking at that, see how they're coping with the post-pandemic era and so forth. We've got some inflation figures in the US as well tomorrow. We've got import prices, export prices, again inflationary. If prices are pushing up, that basically means that these manufacturers have to push that through into the consumer, again inflationary. So paying a special attention to that. Retail sales out of the UK midweek, always paying attention to retail sales. High retail sales, the more inflationary that is as well. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as well. You've got some retail sales out there in Canada as well. We've also got really important retail sales out of the US. That I think is going to be one of the biggest trading times of the week. Retail sales in conjunction with what you saw last week with CPI flying through the roof. Again, if that is going to have a big miss to the upside, again, that's going to be just more fuel added to the fire for those that are calling for rate hikes in the US. So I think that's going to be the big driver of the week ahead. But make sure you do check your economic calendar for the week ahead. It can often keep you out of a lot of trouble. And also, there are some money-making opportunities in there as well. Maybe you checked my video out from last week here on the YouTube channel. It's basically talking about non-farm payroll, biggest event of the week. How often these big events has the big volatility, but then markets do come back to where they were before the announcement was made. Do check that video out here as well. I'll put a little tag up there so you can link to it straight after this video. Okay, I hope you found that useful. As I say, if you want to get this report sent directly to your inbox, just drop your details in there and it'll be sent to you the moment it has been released. Now, if you want to join us in our daily live streams, we are streaming now up to 8 times a day with a new mentor coming on board this week out of the US. If you want to take part in that, you can do so. Just head over to forexsignals.com. Take out a 7-day free trial. If you don't want to stay, you don't have to pay, you don't have to stay. That's not a problem. But I'm sure if you do come over, you will love it. You can engage one-to-one with us all as well. Ask us any questions that you may have. Also, don't forget to follow us on all the socials as usual. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel here if you don't already do so. Okay, well, that's about it. If I don't see you in the trading room this week, I'll see you next week. Have a good week.